Hello, my name is Craig Lowery, and I am the head of school for Park Academy. And we do a lot of tours. We talk with a lot of folks who are looking at schools, they're looking at options, they're new to the dyslexia world, the dyslexia community. And one of the most common questions that I get is why a school? There's a lot of resources in the community that meet different student needs. And so it's something that we've had to give a great deal of thought because we're in the school business and we know that it works really well for the students that come to Park Academy. But other things work really well as well. When somebody's first identified, oftentimes they're meeting with a specialist, a developmental pediatrician, an education professional, and what do you do with that information? And then you get lots of recommendations, but not necessarily answers, and that's because it varies so much from kid to kid and family to family. For some students, getting identification and getting supports in public or traditional settings is very successful. There are some fantastic special education folks out there, departments carrying individuals who can do a lot of work embedded in schools. For others, that's not always the most successful environment, or a school might not have the resources or training on how to work with dyslexic students and the myriad of ways that students are impacted throughout a school day. So for those students, oftentimes they're looking for other professional supports. Sometimes that means tutoring, which can be after school with Barton or Orton Gillingham or a number of different language skills therapists that can do modalities, can implement modalities that really can help student learning. For some of those students, that's a difficult experience. Tacking on extra learning at the end of the day can feel painful and even punishing to a child who also has homework that might be overwhelming. The other piece that can be difficult for some students is the generalization. If a student is pulled out of education settings for really good modality training, but then back into settings for the remainder of their day where teachers might not have the training or time to be able to bridge the services and the things that they're learning, the skills, into the rest of their environment, sometimes they don't get the repetition and the contextual learning opportunities that they need to make the most meaning out of that. Same with tutoring. So if tutoring happens after school, it's not necessarily easy for a student to generalize that into the school day. On top of that, for some kids, it can be very difficult to get pulled out of different settings or to feel stigmatized in terms of what it means to be removed from classrooms or to be in specific learning groups to deal with their learning difference. For those students that kind of fit that niche, sometimes a school can be an option that will address some of those other needs. One being that it's a safe, normalizing place. When you come around a setting where everybody has a learning difference or many kids have dyslexia, then instead of being pulled out or special or different, you find yourself around brilliant, respected kids and peers that mirror your own experience and actually normalize what school is. As opposed to being in a special setting, school is a place where everybody gets what they need. And that creates a sense of safety for kids that is palpable in a school setting. The other piece, around that is that our teachers, when you have teachers who are experienced and trained, who are working cross-curricularly, so when your language arts teacher, your social studies teacher, your math, your drama, all have training of working with students with learning differences or dyslexia specifically, you create the repetition in an environment that is contextualized and can have a greater impact on students. When you have small group reading and everybody has small group reading, you're not being pulled out and the stigmatization is not as intense for many students. And we can see in a school setting what this looks like for a student across their years. And so you've got your third grade teacher and your fourth grade teacher and your fifth grade teacher who intimately know a student and can do a lot of communication to help support that student's learning over time. Other kind of components can include a sense of community for families. It can be very difficult as a parent navigating school and life with a student who learns differently because in traditional settings it's often an isolating experience. And it's very powerful to get into a setting where families get it. They understand you and they can relate. And they can relate to your experience and what it means to be a strong advocate for your child. So you have this sense of community for the students. You have a sense of community for the parents. You have teachers who are trained and have modalities that are impacting kids across the entire school day. And ultimately, you're creating an environment where kids feel safe and can take academic risks. If a kid doesn't feel safe in an academic setting, it doesn't matter if we have the cure for dyslexia, a kid will never access it. But once they feel safe and supported and that they can try and have difficulty without experiencing messages or internalizations of failure, then it frees up a space to take academic and social risks. That is where the growth really happens. And for those students, a school setting like a Park Academy can be a very, very powerful experience.